jump right in with Ukraine. As we noted in the introduction, you and former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice published a very influential op-ed several weeks ago in the Post called "Time is Not on Ukraine's Side." Just to quote briefly, you said the way to avoid confrontation with Russia in the future is to help Ukraine push back the invader now. That is the lesson of history that should guide us, and it lends urgency to the actions that must be taken now before it's too late. So, since that article was published, the United States has decided to send Abrams tanks to Ukraine. Germany is sending Leopard tanks. Do you think that's enough, or do you think more weapons are needed to accomplish what you and Secretary Rice talked about in that article?
I think that the provision of the tanks is important, actually critical, and the fact is that both the United States and the Europeans have promised a lot of other armor. They're sending armored vehicles. They're sending Bradleys from the United States. They're sending the mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles that we used in Iraq and Afghanistan to the Ukrainians to help move their soldiers from one place to another more safely. So there's a lot of new equipment going into Ukraine now. I think the really critical issue right now is how fast they can get that equipment in there. I mean, people are talking about months, and I think that's way too long a timeline. I think there are two clocks at work right now, David. One is on the Russian clock, which is they've mobilized 300,000 men last fall. They just went through their annual conscription that will add another 120,000 men. They're talking about mobilizing even more in Russia. And the question is, how fast can Russia get those hundreds of thousands of new soldiers equipped and trained and get them into the front lines in Ukraine in time for spring offensives? Then there's the Ukrainian clock, which is how fast can this new Western equipment that will be critical to taking on the Russian offensives, how fast can we get the Ukrainians trained and get that materiel into the hands of the Ukrainians? There's talk that the Russians may be thinking about an offensive as early as February 24th, the anniversary of the invasion. And so, I guess that my view would be in a lot of these cases, we ought to be airlifting some of that equipment to Poland and getting it into Ukraine just as fast as we possibly can.